Okay, I'm going to get started. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is Penn Engineering Online's admissions webinar. And today we have a great webinar planned for you. You are going to be able to meet some of our alumni, and they have lots of information to share with you. They're going to share their journey through MCIT and what they're doing now after MCIT. So we really have a jam-packed webinar and lots to go over with you. My name is Jackie Panto. I am the Associate Director of Admissions for Penn Engineering. And also joining us today is Emily Parry. And Emily is the Associate Director of Professional Development and Networking. And she is here to introduce our panelists to you. She's also going to talk a lot about the resources that are available in the Career Services Department and all of the things that we can help our students with as they prepare for either a career switch or even if they're preparing to enhance in their own industries. Lots of different resources out there that Emily will go through with you as well. Before we actually get started, what I wanted to do is to just go over some webinar housekeeping tips with you. I wanted to let you know that we are being recorded. So if you have any questions after the webinar starts, there's no need to panic or to worry. You can go right to our YouTube channel and you can pull up the webinar and you can watch the parts that you feel you missed or anything that you want to review. And while you're there, we do have a wide variety of webinars. Almost all of our webinars that we've ever done, they are a great resource. As you're trying to learn about our programs or the application process, they are a great resource to learn and to see different information and to also hear from different perspectives. We have current student webinars. We have alumni webinars like this one. We have program directors that are talking about their programs. So you can hear lots of different information from various different stakeholders as well. Now, if you have questions during the webinar today, please, we want you to ask questions. If you go to the toolbar on Zoom, what you want to do is you want to use the Q&A function on Zoom, type your question in, and we do have some folks from the admissions teams that are behind the scenes, and they will be answering those questions. So type the question in, they will type an answer back to you. And then at the end of the webinar, we are going to be answering questions live on camera that our alumni panelists will be answering as well. So lots of great stuff for you today, and we are thrilled that you are here. What I wanted to do is just spend some time talking about our two programs. So here we go. We're going to talk about our MCIT online program and then our newer program, our MSEDS online program. So let's start with MCIT. MCIT is our flagship program, and it is really a one-of-a-kind program because it allows individuals who don't have a computer science background or a computer science undergraduate degree, it allows them to obtain a computer science degree without that background. So again, no computer science is needed, or some of our applicants might have very little computer science background to no computer science background. The program is 10 courses. There's 6 core courses and 4 electives. And what's really good to understand is that the same knowledge is conferred as if you were in a traditional computer science master's degree program. So a traditional master's degree in computer science might have 4 core courses and 6 electives. Ours is 6 core courses and 4 electives. But by the time you complete those core courses, you have the same knowledge conferred as a traditional master science and computer science student. So you are at the same point, same level, same knowledge conferred. The other thing to consider is that our courses and the degree is the same as our on-campus program. So you will be taught by the same world-renowned faculty. All the lectures are with our faculty that teach on campus. So that's one thing to consider. And the other thing is that there is nothing on the transcript or on the diploma that indicates an online program, because this really is the same program that's being offered on campus. It's just the mode of delivery that's different. And then there is a dual degree option. So for those individuals that are interested in the MSEDS program, but they're not quite ready for it from a credential standpoint, you can, we do offer the dual degree program as well. So the MSEDS online program, this is our newer program. This actually kicked off a year ago, so it's only a year old. And this is a program that is designed for individuals that have computer science knowledge or a highly quantitative background. So if you have, say, a minor in computer science or 4 courses in computer science or a highly quantitative STEM background or a STEM degree, then this would be a program that could be that you could apply to. And this is for individuals that really want to take that next step, that deep dive into data science. And again, it is a Master's of Science in Engineering. So it's an engineering degree, but an engineering degree in data science. And that's why you really do need the computer science background or the quantitative background in order to get through this program. This program is, again, similar to MCIT. It is 10 courses, 4 core courses, as well as the electives that go along with it. And the other thing to consider with this program is that for the courses that are offered, it is the same as the on-campus program. Again, just like MCIT, you're being taught by world-renowned faculty, the same faculty that teach in our on-campus program, and the degrees are exactly the same. What I wanted to do is to spend some time next on talking about application details. The next application deadline, like the screen says, is May 15th. So you do have about another month and a half before the deadline for our application for our next application round. In order to submit your application, you need the following items. You need a resume, you need a personal statement, you need unofficial college transcripts from every university that you've attended. You need letters of recommendation from at least 2 individuals. We strongly urge you to seek out 3 recommendations, but you definitely need 2 in order for your application to be read. The GRE is optional, and the TOEFL score is only needed if you're not a U.S. citizen or not a U.S. permanent resident, or if you did not attend a school where the medium of instruction was English. So for your personal statement, it's important to remember to answer all questions that we give you in the personal statement. We get a lot of great personal statements, and individuals forget to answer our questions. It's important that you remember that this is almost like an interview. We don't interview our applicants. So this is kind of like the interview. So you want to make sure you're answering every question that we ask you. That's really important with the personal statement. And then I would also urge you to have somebody else read your personal statement. There might be things that you don't pick up that somebody else will. So it's good to have another person or 2 read it, proofread it for you before you actually submit your application. In terms of college transcripts, like I mentioned, it's really important to submit all transcripts. So if you started out, say, at a community college, and then you transfer to another university or college, we would need the transcripts from the community college as well. If we see any transfer credits on a college transcript that does not have a grade, we will not be able to properly evaluate your application or that transcript. So you do need to make sure you're submitting all college transcripts. For our international applicants, please remember that if your grading scale is not in the 4.0 grading scale, it is essential to send us the key to the grading scale so that we understand the grading scale so that we can properly evaluate your application. That's a really important point. And like I mentioned with the letters of recommendation, you do need 2 letters of recommendation. We strongly urge 3. And you want to make sure you're selecting recommenders. Nobody that's a friend or a family member, that would not be a good recommender. We're really looking from a professional standpoint. If you're submitting professional recommendations, you definitely would want to submit a recommendation, say, from a boss or a supervisor or somebody that's above you on the organizational chart. If you're submitting academic recommendation, that's totally fine. You could submit a recommendation, say, from a professor, but it probably wouldn't make sense if you've graduated quite some time ago. Probably wouldn't make sense for you to use an academic recommendation because that professor may not really remember you all that well and may not give a very powerful recommendation. So you really want to think through who you choose. And again, we're looking for individuals that know you and can actually tell the whys. Why will you be a good student in this program? What is it about you that will make you a great student? So you definitely want to think about who you're choosing as recommenders. So that gives you some good pointers on the application. Now, once you submit your application, the nice thing about our application and the your application account and portal is that you're able to go on to your status page, and at all times you can see where you are in terms of your application. So, for example, you can submit your application without actually having the letters of recommendation in your application. So you'd submit your application, all the contact information would be in there. We would have reached out to your recommenders via email. And then at some point in time before deadline, your recommenders need to submit their letters of recommendation. So you can always go to your status page and check the status to see if that recommender submitted their letters. Or if you're going to submit, say, a GRE score, which are optional, you can always go on your status page to see if those scores have reached us, and if that's checked off on your status checklist. So at any time, you can go on that status page and see where you are in terms of materials that still need to be received. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see all of our deadlines. Our next deadline, as I mentioned, is May 15th. And then that's our regular application deadline. There is a typo there. That's not early. That's our regular application deadline. And then all decisions will be returned on June 14th. Okay, so that gives you a good feel for the application, what's needed, and the timing of it. So next, I believe I'm going to turn it over to Emily. Emily, it is all yours. We're looking forward to hearing all about career services and what everything is about that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jackie. So yeah, I'm just gonna spend a few minutes talking about generally career services through our program, but then I do want to make sure that we get to our alumni because they're the folks who actually have been there, went through the process, all have been successful in their job searches, so it'll be excited to hear from them. We're just going to talk a little bit about how our program helps you connect with employers, some key career services events and programs, as well as career outcomes. As a student who's sitting here trying to figure out, hey, is this a good fit for me? No matter who you're researching, finding out where people go after graduation is a big indicator about whether this is a good fit for you. So we'll spend some time showcasing that report and telling you exactly where you can find that on our website. So, connecting with employers is a really important question that we get from students. How will Penn help me actually make these relationships that will help with my next step in my career? So, the first thing I like to point out is that Penn is a handshake school. Basically, when any employer comes to us and says, hey, I want to hire Penn talent, we direct them to Handshake. This is helpful for our student job seekers because it sort of cuts out some of the competition of the entire internet. Anyone who's on there is clearly looking for Penn talent. You can also connect with employers not only through a job board, but whenever an employer reaches out for hosting a virtual event, they'll put all of that information through Handshake as well. There are other good things like job reviews. You can look up sample interview questions similar to Glassdoor. So it's a really good resource, but that is something that you get specific access to through this program as a Penn student. Other two major databases that are really helpful that once again you get access to through the program are CareerShift and Going Global. CareerShift is really great for looking for mass career database lists. So if you look at our career outcomes, many of our students end up going to the coast, so New York City and San Francisco. But the great thing about this degree program is I have students all over the world coming and looking for jobs. So if I'm working with someone maybe from Birmingham, Alabama, who wants to get into software engineering, I could sit there and run different company lists for your area and talk to you about what a more localized job search might look like for you. The other side of that is Going Global. This is really a helpful resource if you are either looking for roles internationally, so outside of the US. There's great information about certain job boards for your country, certain job boards, or regular sort of like cultural tips on the job search broken down by country. If you are in this program, you don't get CPT or OPT, so you're not eligible to utilize this program for an internship if you are an international student. But what you can do is help use the H-1B visa database to find companies and employers who have sponsored folks in the past. And this is just a really helpful tool for all of our international student job seekers. Aside from databases, next I'll talk about other ways that you can connect with employers. So we have our LinkedIn group. So this is something exclusive to both MCIT Online and our MSEDS programs. MCIT Online is just our biggest degree program. We're up to about 2,800 active and current students, as well as alumni in that group. This was really intentional to allow our students to get to know where each other is going, where they're located, make these professional connections in the areas where they're located, or with certain companies that they're dedicated to hopefully making those connections with. There's our Slack community, which is something that our alumni could talk about. It's a great way for people to connect for so many different reasons, but we also have our job board Slack, our internship Slack. Basically, students have created these communities because they're all job seeking in these certain areas, and it's great to connect with people, share, and expand your network. Sometimes I'll have a student who's like, "Oh, I have a interview with Amazon or Twilio," and I'll say, "Hey, go on our Slack and ask for a reference." Many times, these people who are already working there or might know someone. The reason the community is so powerful is because you're all in the same boat. You're all sort of going through the same experience. So in my experience, we've seen a lot of students who are willing to reach out and help each other, and it's great. Finally, you get access to People Grove. This is a massive alumni database for all of Penn Engineering, so not just Penn Engineering Online, but also all of our on-campus alumni as well. So if you're wanting to connect with anyone with that Penn background, we have different ways to make sure that you are identifying Penn alumni who are working on things that you find really valuable. There are more next about other ways that you can connect with employers. These are all of the events that we host for our students. So every fall we host a virtual career fair. We run that through Handshake. Some past employers include some big names like Meta, TikTok, Comcast. And this is a great way for students to connect with employers one-on-one in these short, similar to a career fair. If you're used to being in a gym and waiting in line with your resumes, you can now just log in and join a 10-minute video chat with an employer with your resume ready to talk about any opportunities that you're pursuing. We also run road trips. So this is where we look at, all right, in the US or maybe one day globally, who knows? I'm ready for an international road trip. We say, where are students learning from? So where do we have a massive group of student learners? And then similarly, where are there cities or organizations where there are these tech hubs where we could actually set up some site visits for our students and some social networking with each other. So we've been to the Bay Area, Seattle, New York, all of these different areas. We travel to you, we set up employer site visits in the area, and then we usually have some sort of student networking associated with it as well. So you can get to know each other and get to know some employers in your own backyard. Employers are always hosting information sessions. Those are hosted centrally through Handshake. Sometimes they reach out to us directly to talk to our students, but that's sort of happening more reactively throughout the year as hiring ebbs and flows. We have alumni spotlights, so trying to connect with our students and our alumni to talk about their experiences going through the program and where it has brought them. And then we also really emphasize a lot of skill building. So as a career changer, say you've been in finance for the past 10 years and all of a sudden you want to switch to software, your resume is going to look a lot different. Or say you've been working in the same organization for 5 years and you haven't touched your resume in a while. We make sure that those building blocks to getting you ready to job search, you're feeling confident and ready and checking everything off your list so that you can be successful in that search. So if you need help with resume, offer negotiation, actual job search, expanding your network, we host sessions about that year round, and we have a archive of all of those videos, so you have those resources at your fingertips. Finally, I just want to talk a little bit about our Spark program. This is another major event. So if you are career changing and you want to get into technology, or if you are wanting to enhance your resume with something that is a little bit more meaningful and can showcase the application of your technical skills. I found myself early on in this job telling students, hey, yeah, you really need to work on side projects. And then they would just look at me with a blank stare and be like, what do you mean? That's a tall order to do. So we created this program to try and create a scaffold for our students between us teaching you how to code and program, and then also applying those coding skills to something tangible that you can talk about with a recruiter. So this is a summer-long competition. Students get in groups, you build something. We've had people do websites, apps, different dashboards, databases. And then basically we have technologists who are both Penn alumni as well as industry partners come and act as mentors and judges for this competition. It's just an exciting way to help students collaborate and apply those technical skills to something meaningful for their resume. Um, Finally, I just want to talk a little bit about our career outcomes. So, every year and every graduating term, I bother people with a survey and I say, "Hello, where are you going after graduation?" And I send that email over and over and over again because I am dogged about trying to get a knowledge rate that's actually meaningful to prospective students like you. This report is live on our website. You can find it anytime. But as you can see, we are really proud of the way that our students are taking these degrees and re-entering the workforce exactly where they want to be in technology at some of these top organizations, with software engineering being our number one outcome for software for our MCIT program. For our MSEDS, I believe we have our first two data science graduates walking in May. So next time we do this, Jackie, I'll actually have MSEDS outcomes. I will say if you're interested in our career outcomes on campus that has the exact same curriculum as our online program, they have all of this data and statistics on Central Career Services website. You can find that as well. Until we had our first cohort of graduates in MCIT Online, we relied on those on-campus stats to just help inform our students. And so far, they've been comparable. So students are finding success in where they're wanting to go afterwards, which I think is very exciting. A proof of concept, as you will. So now I think we just want to move into our panel and hear from our panelists, if that's okay with everyone on the call. So we have Wendy, Wynn, and Lauren who are joining us. These are 3 alumni from our MCIT Online program. I'm going to have you all go through and just introduce yourself. So let us know your name. What were you doing before you joined the Penn Engineering Online program? And then what is your current job title and employer? We'll start with you, Lauren.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren. I graduated from Penn Engineering Online in May 2023. Before the program, I was doing software solutions consulting at IBM. Before that, a science teacher. But since graduating, I am now a product manager at Grace.
Wendy, how about you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So my name is Chi, and I also go by Wendy. So I graduated in December 2022. So I used to be an account manager and a curriculum developer in startups. Now I'm a full-time software engineer at YouTube.
Thanks so much. And Wynn, how about you?
I'm Win. I graduated in fall 2022, and before the program, I was a mechanical engineer. Right now, I'm a senior software engineer at Capital RX, a Series V startup, focusing on building a pharmacy benefit manager platform.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just want everyone on the call to know whenever I'm trying to figure out, Jackie will email me and say, "Hey, we want to do an alumni panel. Do you know of good alumni?" And I'm always like, "Okay, one moment," as I go through my Rolodex. I try and think of people with really different backgrounds and who can showcase these very different walks of life, different experiences. So I hope that the folks here sort of you can identify with them and their experiences. We really do have people from so many different backgrounds. Like I have lawyers, finance, teachers. And it's one of my favorite parts about the job is you never know who's going to be joining the other side of your Zoom room. But everyone sort of has this shared passion of thinking and working in a different way. And it's exciting to be able to see them sort of flourish in a path that they have been wanting to go.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually last week, interesting that you say that. Last week we had somebody that had a music background. So as well. So you can see that really the backgrounds in the MCIT program are amazing. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, and it's great to see the reasons why too they're doing the program.
Yeah, and I think our students like it too. I think that like you'll be working on a group project and be like, "Oh gosh, this person's a brain surgeon." Okay, well, let's see how are we going to get this code to work anyway? Great. Okay, so my first question for all of you is, how did you decide that this Penn Engineering Online degree was a good fit for you. When you were in this moment of being a prospective student and considering all of your options and your own personal and professional goals, what about this degree program stood out as the best option and best fit for you? Wynn, we'll start with you.
Awesome. I'm delighted to answer. So I really wanted to pivot into tech, and I was teaching myself how to code, but I really quickly realized that I there's so much more than just coding. There's also computer science, and there's also software engineering. I found myself that if I follow a structured learning path, it would make my transition into software much smoother. And that's the reason why I was really drawn to this program. Amongst a lot of options that I found, this was the best option that I found because I want to work full time while bridging my, knowledge gaps. And I really, really, really want to surround myself with hungry, driven, diverse, talented, and hardworking peers. And that's the reason why I chose this program.
Thank you. Lauren, how about you? When you were in this discovery phase, what stood out to you about the program?
Definitely the coursework. Professionally, I was looking to propel myself into a more technical role. And to do that, I wanted to differentiate myself from my peers and build some valuable technical skills. In the beginning, like when I also, like, I thought that I just needed coding skills, but working in the industry, I like really quickly realized like there's so much more to that. Like the history of computing and understanding all of those fundamentals are a really important part of making you a well-rounded engineer or just somebody who works in the tech space. So I ended up choosing Penn Engineering because of the coursework and the alumni network. I saw that the course offerings were deep. It covered more than just the basics of learning how to code, but the history and why things work the way they do. I also had friends who did 5-year undergrad master's programs who had looked at the coursework and went like, wow, that like basically covered my 5-year degree. So yeah, and like coming from the other end of it now, like yes, that was definitely the right pull and helped me a lot in my career search. Yep.
Thank you. I feel like both of your answers kind of answer a question that I get a lot from students, which is what's the difference between this and a boot camp? The fact that you sort of both touched on themes of that deepening understanding, the rigor of the coursework, the fact that you have this bird's eye view and this macro understanding of computer science in addition to the fundamentals. I get asked that question all the time is why should I do this over a boot camp? And I think that both of your answers sort of touch to that question. Wendy, do you have anything to add?
Sure, yeah. I think for me, I think first it's the prestigious like reputation of the school. I believe like a degree program with Penn Engineer would help me to be like more like competitive in job market in a certain sense. And also I think second, the other two also kind of like mentioned it's about like the curriculum design. I really enjoy how the program actually incorporates all the fundamental like components of computer science with all the essential aspects like ranging from like logic and top layer and also to a computer architecture at the fundamental level. Plus the program also offers students a lot of opportunities to kind of work on some hands-on projects. And also I think the third reason is the flexibility from the online program. I can also just commit to other things in my life and work while studying the program. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Wendy. I think the fact that you just answered the flexibility leads to my second question, which is all about building community in a program. I think sometimes our prospective students might hesitate about joining a fully online degree program. Clearly, COVID had sort of helped create a proof of concept that you can learn online, but we had already been doing it pre-COVID. But I think many people in that big shift were just very uncertain about what it would look like for a community and will my experience be similar to that of on campus? How am I going to get to know my professors? How am I going to get to know my peers in this online space? So, Wendy, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about how you built community in the program. And then I'm going to bring it over to you and Wynn and Lauren, because I know that you were big players in our student organization. So, Wendy, let's start with you. How did you build community in a virtual space?
Sure, yeah. So for me, I think I just try to like utilize all the resources available to connect to other like fellow students, faculty, and staff. For example, like for most of the courses, there will be like group projects and the opportunity to collaborate on homework. So you can easily just reach out to like fellow students via Slack or a Q&A forum to kind of like team up. And also on Slack, there are a variety of actually channels set up actually by fellow students where you can actually host and join any offline meetups. For example, I'm in like Bay Area like channel, and I know there are quite some like actually meetup hosted by the students around like Bay Area. And also we also have our own student organization, as you just mentioned, which will also provide extra resources to help students like create and engage in the community. Yeah. So this is basically how I try to like build a community and try to like engage more in the community. Yeah.
When you had talked about Slack, I think sometimes people are afraid when we say, oh, you can like join people on Slack. If you're not an instant message person or if you're not a message board person, that idea seems sort of foreign and uncomfortable. Wendy, can you talk a little bit about how you felt comfortable reaching out to people on Slack or like how you dove into making those connections?
Yeah, I feel like actually for most of the students, they're super like welcoming and responsive. Yeah, so I just feel like yeah, since we because for each course we'll also have like the course like group like a certain like Slack. So yeah, especially when there is any chance to kind of collaborate with others, I think this is going to be like a good opportunity for you to reach out to someone to talk about things because there's some kind of upcoming like homework or projects. Yeah, I feel like yeah, I don't feel that I don't feel like oh, I'm too like shy or too scared of like reaching out to others because most of students are pretty like professional and also welcoming. Yeah, and we can always just kind of like team up and start to kind of like work out things. And also for some students, they will reach out to me to kind of like form some study group because for certain courses they have some kind of pretty challenging like topics. Yeah, I think this is also something you guys can kind of like together work on to talk about after you reach out to each other on Slack. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, Lauren, I'm gonna ask you to talk about how did you build community. When we had talked, I loved the way you talked about like the TA hours and taking advantage of those. And then we will touch on MOSA a little bit.
Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, TA office hours. So I guess like to piggyback off of what Wendy was saying about like if you're scared to reach out on Slack, there's also like other forums in the coursework built in. So um they may have changed it now, but we used to be able to do it in the coursework where you can like comment on threads, comment on other students' questions in that manner. And that also translated to TA office hours. So there were links basically in each course that allowed you to pop into an office hour and chat in person for like 10-15 minutes with the TA pretty much whenever you needed to. And I found that to be an excellent way to build community, not just like for my academic well-being, but also just to meet other TAs who are also students in the program, and to like have somebody understand the challenges you're going through in the program and help you and give you advice. Yeah.
Awesome. And then Win, I'll let you talk a little bit about generally how did you build community when you were in the program?
I would be delighted. So I was MOSA co-president, and before that, I was the co-director of our Education and Learning Committee. So there were tons of things that we did at MOSA. Some notable things, including that we had career webinars with senior folks. They could be senior data manager, senior engineers, senior leaders at established company, which are also alumni or current students, talking about their experience to inspire students and to help them figure out ways that they could pivot their career in the best way possible. We also hosted annual hackathons with prizes, and we did a lot of experiences to build a community, bringing people closer together, regardless of space. Uh, there was, yeah, how do I say it? A lot of the activities are student driven first, so they are by students for students. So it wasn't forced upon and it was really organically grown. And that's how we found that that was the best approach, building a community.
That's awesome. Lauren, how was your experience? MOSA is that's the acronym for our student organization through the program. It's unique in that I think it gets a lot done. Like Wynn said, the grassroots outreach and the more authentic sort of student-driven activities, like to a staff member whose job it is to create these opportunities, it's exciting to see so much of this coming directly from the students, knowing that you're building the exact thing that you're looking for. How was your experience in the organization, Lauren?
Yeah, I was actually president after, and so I inherited and benefited from all the things that he did while he was president, which was one of the reasons why I wanted to run. Basically, the community, like once you join a student association like MOSA, you're already joining a community of students who have also joined because they're looking to build community. So that's like one of the really great parts is that like I think like 90% of the student body was in MOSA anyways. And it was just an opportunity for students to talk together about what they wanted to create from the program. So a lot of what we talked about during our MOSA meetings was just having an open forum for students to come in and say like, hey, I'm in these classes and I would really like to form a group or a regular cadence where we can keep talking about these types of topics. So in my last year as MOSA president, we started building the foundations for how we can keep that student-led community building going. So I'm hopeful that it's continued now, but I found it to be really helpful and like, yes, take some initiative, but at the very least, it's like a group of students who also have the same goal of building community, meeting others, and just overall being hopeful people. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's so meaningful. Thank you both for sharing. So next I'm going to shift gears a little bit and we're going to talk about job search. So many of the folks who are pursuing this degree are doing so with the intention of either career changing or taking that next level up. All of you had 3 pretty different job search experiences, so I'd love to sort of hear from you each, if you could just walk us through what that job search looked like, and similarly, how you kind of sold the skills that you were gaining in this program to employers. Wendy, we're going to start with you because you did something pretty unique in that you were able to leverage internship opportunities for your job search. Before I let you start talking, I am just going to say quickly, only about 15% of our students do an internship in the program, and that's because so much of the program is designed for working professionals. Many of you don't want to get rid of your dental insurance or like quit a job to then do a 3-month job and then have a gap. But for those who can make it work in their own, like with their own background and with the flexibility, the selling point of an internship is still really helpful. So all the traditional ways that you think about return on investment in an internship, I feel like Wendy did a great job at creating and building like these blocks to that success. But then many of other students, but they won't go this route. So I wanted Wendy to chat a little bit about it because it's funnily enough, it's non-traditional for our program, but intensely traditional for like higher ed. So Wendy, can you just tell us about how your job search looked and how you sold the degree to your employers?
Sure, yeah. So yeah, I actually started my initial job search in like fall recruiting season after beginning the program, as I had actually prepared myself a little bit beforehand by self-learning some coding and algorithm courses like online, as I just quitted my job like completely for this program. Yeah, so I first actually targeted like internships, considering like the hiring bar may not be as high as the full-time. Yeah, so and I can then like highlight some of my like internship like experiences on my resume later on and make my background like more competitive for like later like full-time search as a career changer. Yeah, therefore I actually have applied for jobs like in every recruiting season since like 2019, because I started programming 2019 and graduated in 2022. So I basically just apply for jobs every year. Yeah. So to get more opportunities. And also I utilized a lot of like our career service actual resources mentioned by Emily just now, like such as like the online career fair and also access to Handshake. To be honest, I feel like the Handshake really help a lot because as a student, you have like certain access to Handshake. And when I actually look for internships, I got the most of the responses I got from the employers are from Handshake. Yeah. And also I attended a GHC, because for the program, they also offer like GHC like scholarships. So these are super like helpful for me during my like early stage like job search. Yeah. And speaking of like my internship experiences, actually during these internships, not only did I actually acquire new like industry like technologies, but also apply these knowledge to solve real world like issues or problems. And additionally, I actually revisited certain concepts from my program, such as like operating systems and reinforcing my learning in these kind of areas. And then realize, oh, for certain like concepts and knowledge, they're super, super important. So I definitely need to go back and to learn more about them. Yeah. So regarding like how I sell these kind of like skills and also my experiences to the employers, yeah, basically I highlight some rigorous curriculum from MCIT program, and also I highlight my internship experience, and I will just showcase some specific like projects and achievement from the program. For example, from the group projects, from some side projects I got the opportunity to work on during the program. Yeah, so this is my overall like experience. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Well, I'm gonna switch over to Lauren. I like your story because you career changed from so many different backgrounds, and I think that that really resonates with many of our students who might have trouble seeing themselves as being able to like successfully make that leap. Can you just walk us through your various career changes and sort of like how did you end up selling the program to your employers to get where you are now?
Yeah, been through quite a few. I actually studied nutrition. That was my undergraduate degree, and I built like a good amount of experience in the healthcare setting, some with education and a little bit of data science through like some of the internships I did in undergrad. But basically, I was able to use that background to secure a position at IBM in software solutions, with the like direct target area being like technology for healthcare and education. So that really worked out well for me to get my first foot in the door in the tech space. And that was when I started to look for more opportunities to increase my technical abilities. That was when I applied and started at MCIT. And basically, once I started working on the coursework, I started also like Wendy, I was just interviewing constantly because I was like working a full-time job, but I just wanted to like get my feet wet and understand what people in the industry were looking for. So as I was doing my coursework, I would like always update my resume with like whatever the latest project I was working on in my coursework. And interviewing that really helped like spark conversation. People would always look at my background and go like, oh, you studied nutrition, but the first thing on your resume is this like project about Caesar cipher. How does that mix in with your background? And I don't want to say that it was easy, because it was not easy at all to interview, but having that like relevant education in my back pocket made it easy to talk about what I was working on, because I was so actively doing that in my coursework. Um, so moving forward, I was like able to secure a lot of like high profile interviews. I actually did final round at Amazon like multiple times and Nvidia multiple times. I had an offer from Apple, C3 AI and Airtable. And like that really shocked me. And I will say like the coursework, especially the ending classes, so the elective classes, really was able to help me differentiate my knowledge, just because I had done master's level coursework and projects that I was able to speak to on my resume. Yeah.
That is so great. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, when I think of you, I think of resilience. I'm like, oh, whenever our students are like, oh, I applied to 10 places and haven't heard back, I'm like, we're gonna have to talk about that volume. And also let me introduce you to Lauren, and she's gonna tell you a little bit about what this job search actually looks like. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I think that your hard work paid off so well. Like I think that you're one of my most fun success stories to know how much work you put into it and how you really like with all that resilience and with that dogged stick to itiveness, you created what you have now.
Thanks.
Wynn, I loved when you and I chatted because you have moved into a senior role, which I think is so exciting. But I think your understanding of the entire landscape and that trajectory is really meaningful. Can you just walk us through a little bit about your job search, how you sold your new degree to employers? And if you wouldn't mind just touching on that perspective about like how your first job builds to your next. I think that's really valuable.
Gotcha. I would be delighted to tell. So I joined our program Slack channel a little bit before my first semester start. I was making friends and I was talking to one of my friends, and he just casually mentioned that one of his friends is actually hiring for a contract role. So I have been applying and interviewing and preparing quite a bit before that. So it feels like something that I can just capitalize right away. So I jumped on the opportunity, pitched myself, ace the interview, I got the contract role. And that's how I get my first foot in the door and get the ball rolling. From then on, I realized that for my first role, I want to just stick in the deep end, just learn as much as possible, be a sponge, and do whatever it takes to succeed. Uh, After the contract ended, I was really fortunate to also find another opportunity at the Vita, working on the healthcare space, pivoting from manufacturing and mechanical engineering to healthcare, especially in the technology side, is quite a jump, both in terms of technical domain and industry domain. I was really fortunate to have a lot of friends at the program who was either in the healthcare domain or it's in or they have the domain in the technologies that I'm using. So just constantly pivoting ideas, talking to them and quickly bridging my gap was the best thing that happened to my career. And I'm really grateful for it.
That's so great. Thank you, Anne. That's so. I love the story of yeah, like my first semester, I slacked someone and they got me a job. That's amazing. Okay, so final thoughts. My last question for you all, the panelists, and then we'll move into questions from the audience. It's just basically, do you have any general advice for the folks on the call? So these are people who are prospectives, considering the degree, assessing whether this is a good fit or not for them. If you can think back to when you were in their shoes, any advice that you wish you knew that sort of helped you make the decision and feel confident with where you are now? We'll just do the same order. So Wendy.
Yeah, sure. So I guess for the general like advice from me is first plan ahead. I think it's super important to develop like a plan to balance your academic studies with other like commitments such as work, family, or some personal interests. I know like for a lot of students, they're full-time working students. So I think it's important to set some like goals and milestones, keep yourself on track throughout the program, and also always just ask for help whenever you need it because the program and also the student organizations like offers a variety of resources to help out. For example, academic coach, which right now I'm part of, and also some mentorship program or so. Yeah. And I think my second piece of advice is to consider your career goal. I think it's very important to consider whether you're looking to actually transition into a tech related field or you want to kind of like advance your current career, strengthen your background. Yeah, so that you can kind of like plan accordingly. I guess my third advice is connect with alumni and also the current students as much as possible. So in the program, you will actually have plenty of opportunities to collaborate with others. I'd encourage you actually to reach out to classmates, even if some collaborations may be actually optional, because you will actually get to know lots of like talented and also fantastic people in the community. And actually, my later job search, I reach out to a few fellow students and alumni. They're very welcome and responsive and offer me quite a few actually referrals. Yeah, so these are my general like advice for the students who are considering the program. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Lauren, any advice for the folks on the call?
I'll ditto what Wendy said, but just to add something different, I'd say like dig into the coursework. If you go online and like look up any of the classes that are on the course list, you can like probably find either the in-person or online version of like some more details of what the course offers. So I'd encourage any prospective students to like look at the coursework, see if it's something that gets you excited or something that you think would be applicable to yourself. That was something that I did that I found really helpful and got me like excited and invested in the program.
Thank you. And Wynn, any final thoughts for us? What's your advice?
My advice would be whether you work in the program, you start in the program, you work full time, there's an opportunity to raise the bar together. Uh, this would spiral into more or less of a story. So at a graduate level, there's much less hand-holding and there's a lot of self-directed learning. And that's the same bar that happens at a senior level. There's you don't get a chance to just getting handed tickets and you work on it. You should be able to spot a problem, figure out a solution, divide and conquer together with your team and get the results done. And that's the best part of the program, which is to individually raise your bar. And that's also the second part of raising the bar together is you have the chance to collaborate with some of the most talented, hardworking people. I have a story. So Wendy and I actually took one of the hardest courses as our program. And by the end of it, we, with two other students, actually built a mini Google from scratch. So we built our own front end, we built our own server, we built our own indexer crawler, the whole nine yards, a distributed database all from scratch, hosted on AWS and put production data on it. And still to this day, this is one of the best projects that I get to showcase to my future employers. And if you imagine that we were working full time and we were doing this day in and day out every single night, and I had the opportunity to have Wendy help me facilitate the project management while coding and while I was designing our system. And it was really intense, but it was fondly memorable. And that the advice is if you have the chance to raise the bar together, you should seize it.
Thank you so much, Wynn. I love that story, especially because it brings in Wendy. Yeah, that project, I will say, I know for sure sells so many employers on this degree program. Students who talk about building that whole process and going through it, many of our employers have shared like, wow, that's something really unique and that like clearly showcases a lot of skill from the program.
So we're
Before
getting
we move on-
questions on, well, not to interrupt, but we're getting a question on what course is that? Our registrants want to know what course is that.
Oh, it was CIS 5550, Web and Internet Systems.
Okay, so 5550. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, before I definitely want to pass it over to the audience, but before we do, I just wanted to make sure I got in a huge thank you to all three of you. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experiences. We appreciate your insights. I know that the prospective students really appreciate everything you shared. So I would be remiss if I didn't take the moment to say thank you so much. But Jackie, happy to answer any questions from the audience.
Yes, and I second that. You guys were amazing. I loved hearing your stories and how you got to where you are today and all the great advice. So I know I've learned a lot. So I am sure that our prospective students on the call have learned a lot too. You guys did a great job. We did get a few questions, not too many. I think our behind the scenes team did a great job in answering many, many questions. But Emily, there was a question about career fair and attending. Obviously, they know that they're allowed to attend the virtual career fair, but they asked the difference between in-person career fairs and virtual career fairs if they lived in the area. Can you touch upon that?
Yeah, so unfortunately, our online students are not invited to the on-campus career fairs purely because those fairs are run through Central Career Services and they don't serve our online students. What is the difference? Not much at all, mainly because I have a hand in all of them. So I'm the orchestrator and invitee for any engineering fair on campus online. People are hearing from me trying to plug employers into different opportunities. I would say the virtual fairs end up being better because the employers know and who's in the room. So if an employer who's coming to one of our virtual engineering fairs, I have branded these two degree programs heavily with the employer registrants. If you have employers coming to our on-campus fair, it's really just for, even though it's an engineering fair, it's for any Penn engineering or any Penn student can attend those on-campus fairs as long as they're on campus. So the big difference is you get much more thoughtful outreach on behalf of myself, and the employers know exactly what they're looking for and are connecting with talent, I think, at a much more targeted level.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And then Lauren, we had a question on if you remember what electives you took, if you could share what electives you took.
I took 515. I took blockchain. I
We're testing you.
I know it's been a while now. I took blockchain. I took the it was the math for computer science and then the data science one. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that with whoever it was that asked that question. We appreciate
Yeah.
it. And I think that is pretty much it. I think that we can, wrap this up. We only have a couple of minutes anyway, but again, thank you so much. And Emily, thank you for all your input as well on all of the resources that are available. We appreciate it. So I just want to wrap it up and just go into the some information. Let's say a day from now, you decide you have 15 more questions or whatever the case may be. What should you do? So we always advise potential students, if they have questions, to first check out our FAQ database on our website. Our website is pretty extensive. It's very user-friendly. So I would definitely go on our website, search our FAQ database, tons of questions in there. You may actually find your answers right there. If not, we'd love to meet with you. We have private appointments. The admissions team has office hours, I believe, every day of the week, but Friday now. So including the weekends and including the evenings. So we really do try to make sure that we are available pretty much for all time zones. So please set up an appointment. We would love to meet with you. We enjoy meeting with our potential students. Webinars, just like this webinar. I forgot to mention, this was actually, how could I forget this? This was the 4th webinar this month of March. March was our webinar series about our collaborative community, hence the reason for our backgrounds here. But every Tuesday during this month, we had different groups of panelists speaking. We had current students, we had TAs, we had people that ran the TLP program, and of course, our alumni here today. So definitely you want to go to our YouTube channel and check out those webinars, and you can hear different perspectives from different groups of either students, TAs, and whatnot. So webinars and events are a great way to learn about our programs. We are going to have a ton of coffee chats during the month of April. So please be sure to join us for a coffee chat. We have a webinar, I believe it's April 16th, which is going to be with Dr. Tom Farmer and Dr. Susan Davidson, who both teach in either one of our programs. Please be sure to join that, and you can meet with them and hear what they have to say. You can email us. We have our email address on the screen. We try to do our best to get back to every email within 24 hours. Our whole admissions team is on the email. And they are definitely willing to get there and answer your questions as quick as possible. So lots of different ways that you can get in touch with us. But the bottom line is we are more than willing and want to help you. We want to answer your questions. We want to ease your concerns, and we want to help you to get those applications submitted. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. You were wonderful. Thank you, Emily. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day, evening, afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. So thank you so much. Bye-bye, and see you soon.